Hey fellas, and welcome to the Kick Butt Action Channel. So today, let's go down memory lane, back to the days when we had a ton of different martial arts action stars. Now, some of you guys have mentioned that you want me to focus on the Queen of Martial Arts, aka Cynthia Rothrock. So, for some of you older guys that might have forgotten about her, let's brush up on your action memory. And for the younger crowd out there, who knows, you might learn something really cool here today. Either way, let's get into it. Alright guys, so today we're gonna check out the toughest chick that ever lived, at least in the world of martial arts movies. And that is Cynthia Rothrock. Cynthia was born Cynthia Ann Christine Makowski on March 8th, 1957 in Wilmington, Delaware. Now before we go any further, wouldn't you say that sounds like a nice normal girl? You know, like the cute girl next door? Yeah. Not exactly someone that someday would kick the living crap out of pretty much any man out there that would get in her way. Well, nonetheless, that's what happened. At least in the movies. Okay, so how did she make this transition? At the age of 13, she discovered the world of martial arts, and that changed her life forever. She studied really hard, and it paid off. At the age of 24, she became a world champion in forms and weapons, and held the title for 5 years. Now I should probably mention that these categories were not exactly combat oriented, more like a display of movements rather than traditional fighting. And she competed in a category that was open to both men as well as women. Now I assume it was something similar to what Jet Li did years earlier back in the 70s when he was more or less the Wushu king. Now of course Jet Li was a lot younger, he was really just a kid and a teenager, and he beat guys that was like twice his age. Sometimes it gets a bad rep, because some people say, well, that's just a demonstration and not actually real fighting. Well, believe me, to be able to pull this off, you need to have trained for many years and you gotta know what you're doing. Okay, so that being said, does that mean that Cynthia Rothrock doesn't know how to fight? Well, let's take a look and you be the judge. Yeah, if you're smart and you want to keep your health intact, maybe you should not make any girly jokes when this girl's around. Now while you're thinking about how you maybe would fight Cynthia Rothrock, let's quickly go down her very impressive martial arts resume. Cynthia holds black belt rankings in 7 styles of martial arts, and that includes an 8th degree black belt in Tong Soo Do, black belt in Taekwondo, Karate, Eagle Claw, Wushu, Northern Shaolin, and Pai Lum Tao Kung Fu. So in other words, don't mess with mama. Now during her competitive days in the early 80s, Rothrock took first place in forms 32 times and first place in weapons 12 times in her first 38 tournaments. Now, as mentioned earlier, that also included competing in men's forms 3 out of 4 times. She was also a grandmaster of 5 tournaments and came in first place in 4 out of 5 fighting events. So you still don't think she can fight? I think I'll go with yes. Okay, so now we know a thing or two in regards to her martial arts background. So how did she end up working in the movies? In 1983, while she was competing in her martial arts demonstration days, she was discovered by Golden Harvest in Los Angeles. They saw her and they realized, who the hell is this? That girl can kick some butt. So now she was suddenly on their radar. It took about 2 years though before she made her first martial arts movie for them. It was in the 1985 movie Yes Madam, also known as Police Assassins or In the Line of Duty Part 2. Don't ask me why. However, most of us hardcore action fans remember it just as Yes Madam. Cynthia Rothrock did not have any experience in movies prior to this, and since the movie was shot in Hong Kong, everything was done the good old-fashioned Hong Kong way of filming, which is pretty crazy even for men. And she has said many times that she was simply just treated as one of the guys, meaning that she had to do most of her own stunts, and this was brutal. It was absolutely crazy, and this was during the crazy Hong Kong days in the 1980s when there literally were no rules. You remember Jackie Chan doing all his crazy stunts. Well, as you can see, Cynthia Rothrock got a little taste of that as well. But she never complained, she just did what she was told. And she had a lot of fun doing it. Now, Hong Kong stuntmen are no joke. And Cynthia Rothrock has worked with several stuntmen that ended up paralyzed from some of the crazy and insane stunts. Yeah, the mentality among Hong Kong stuntmen are very different compared to what we know in Hollywood, that's for sure. They actually want you to hit them, and not just touch them, but literally hit them. Not just so they have something to work with and for the realism of it, but they will actually be offended if you don't make contact. There's definitely a lot of pride involved here. Now, in my mind, what really made this movie awesome was that not only did we have one of the best martial arts chicks in the world, obviously Cynthia Rothrock, but she was also teamed up with Michelle Yeoh, who also had a bright future ahead of her, mostly in the Kung Fu department. And yes, in the 90s she worked with Jackie Chan, Jet Li, and so many others. And perhaps her best and most memorable performance ever, at least if you ask me, was in Ang Lee's movie Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. So to have not only one, but two young, hot martial arts chicks appear in the same film was absolutely amazing, revolutionary, historical, whatever you want to call it. It was something that had never been seen before, and yes, the result was absolutely amazing. Of course, today you might look back and say, yeah, it was a little cheesy, but you know what? It's been almost 40 years since the movie came out, and in my mind, it still holds up in many ways, and I don't think it has ever been topped. There's been a lot of female action stars since then, but I still think that these two actresses are better than anyone else we've seen since. And believe me, there's been quite a few. My two favorites action stars, at least in Hollywood, would have to be Sigourney Weaver in Aliens, and of course Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2. But if we're talking about pure martial arts female action stars, no one can even come close to Cynthia Rothrock and Michelle Yeoh. The movie Yes Madam turned out to be a huge hit, and the Asian audience simply could not get enough of this Caucasian kicking ass chick. She ended up staying in Hong Kong for another 3 years and did 7 movies there. She's one of the very few Western performers that managed to achieve great stardom in the Hong Kong film industry before making it in her home country. British-born martial artist and Hollywood action star Scott Adkins had a similar story, also started out in the Far East. Okay, so by now she definitely had gotten her feet wet in the crazy world of Hong Kong martial arts cinema. Then what? Well, home is where you hang your hat. By now Cynthia Rothrock was very well known by action and martial arts audiences all over the planet. In just a few years she had established great recognition as perhaps the next big martial arts star. She appeared in the movie No Retreat, No Surrender Part 2 with Lauren Avedon and Matthias Hues. She did not play the main character, but it was a really good role for her. I saw the movie not long ago, and yes, it's very 80s, but it still kicks some butt and is very entertaining. By now, Cynthia Rothrock had definitely proved herself, and she was now ready to take over Hollywood. Some of her early work and probably most memorable movies I would say would be China O'Brien 1 or 2, Martial Law, its sequel, and maybe Lady Dragon. In Rage and Honor from 1992, she got to work with her old friend Richard Norton, another martial artist that has worked with pretty much everybody. We don't have time to talk about him today, so we'll do that in another video. Throughout the 90s, she kept extremely busy. She did sequels to Rage and Honor and also the 3 Tiger Claws movies. And these are just a few movies of her extremely long resume in the 90s alone. Now, even though she's mostly known for being a karate tough chick and whooping some serious butt, she also appeared in some other mainstream movies, like in the 1996 movie An Eye for an Eye with Sally Field, Ed Harris, and Kiefer Sutherland. Personally, I had the chance and privilege of meeting her at the Arnold Classics bodybuilding show in Columbus, Ohio in 1999. And yes, she was very nice and very friendly. That very same year, she gave birth to her one and only daughter, that today would be about 25 years of age. She did take about a 6 or 7 years hiatus from the film industry, I'm guessing to focus on motherhood, but returned with a vengeance in 2013. Now, Cynthia Rothrock has had an amazing career both in the Far East as well as in Hollywood. Now, this video is just a tiny portion of her life, and of course there's so much more to talk about, but we're gonna have to do that in another video. Anyway guys, thanks for checking in. Please, as always, like and subscribe to the channel. Also, let me know what kind of action stars you want me to focus on next. See you next time.